John, you must be happy with what Paul is accomplishing now. That everyone is doing well makes me happy. I thought Paul would be fine, but I'm more happy that Ringo is doing well and finding a good niche for himself. What on earth? I'm concerned for him. I'm confident he'll be fine. Only two artists have ever collaborated with me on more than one night stands, as it were. I mentioned to someone the other day. That's Yoko Ono and Paul McCartney. In the history of the Beatles, Paul met me on the first day I performed Biba Paloola Live. So I think that's a pretty damn fantastic pick. All right? And he was introduced to my organization, the Choramen, by a mutual friend. After the event, we met and spoke, and I could see he was talented because he was playing guitar backstage and singing Eddie Cochran's 20 Flight Rock. During our first meeting, I turned to face him and asked, "Want to join the group?" He added. And from what I remember, he said yes the following day. Now, Ringo came through George, and George came through Paul. Paul was the person I chose as my partner because I knew he had talent and we could get along, even if I obviously had a saying about where they came from. And I'm not referring to the band you're a part of, the Beatles, but I'm just curious about how cohesive any group can be when there are particular fan favorites. Perhaps they prefer Paul to John, or something similar. Didn't I get right to it? I just wanted to know if it's really that hard to be friends. And if you're in a band like the Beatles, Rolling Stones, or someone else, do you really care if you're friends or not? Because we weren't friends, we didn't end our relationship. We simply split up because we were bored, and boredom breeds conflict. How could accomplishing what you did make you bored? Since it had no intention of moving, we would simply declare, time to make an album, stop traveling, and head to the studio, where the four of us would be staring at each other and doing the same licks. All we did was make it really, really large as a band. Our best work wasn't always documented, because despite what Mick says about us, we were performers in Hamburg, Liverpool, and the dance clubs nearby, and we produced amazing results. Well, no one in Britain could touch us, because we played plain rock. I wanted the Beatles thing to end, but mostly it was fear. I thought that if it continued, I would be unable to breathe. It was also dying. Do you believe it was suffocating you personally? Yes, that's what it was. And we weren't enjoying it anymore. And we had a great time during it all. In essence, we did it because we enjoyed it, even if there were many messy moments and others when we detested it. The prizes were an added bonus. Our goal was to become musicians. Collaborating was enjoyable. It became monotonous. And we moved past all of the true squabbling, the gritty, dirty things that had nothing to do with our popularity. The same popularity was going on in Liverpool's dance clubs, which meant that Paul was always more popular than the rest of us. Therefore, it wasn't a huge surprise. The girls would go as soon as the children noticed him. Thus, we were aware of the score's location. It was a group, though. What was significant and intriguing was the music. Who wasn't it? It didn't matter as long as we were moving forward and making progress. And I believe we had some divorce-related stress, because it was unsettling to be alone after 10 years of dating. Saying I'll leave you to whoever you've been with for a long time is really cool. Then all of a sudden you're alone. And whether I realized it or not, I was a little shaken up after the Beatles' so-called demise. So I just settled into my own job. Naturally, it also had an impact on my work. I was really insecure. And I would be thinking either I did nothing, or perhaps it was all George, or perhaps Paul wrote it all. I would then think, well, I did write that, as I perused the song list. I did help with that, though. Oh, I see. I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I subsequently began working on my own. I could then let her work after I felt safe in myself. That's how it operated. We've all adapted to that, I believe. Since we're all performing well on our records, we can rest easy about it. And I believe that each of us has now established our individuality. When that was boring, why is what you're doing now not? Since we were together for a lot longer than the general public knew us, it tends to develop into a format, and I can switch musicians whenever I want. It wasn't limited to 64. I've been playing with Paul since I was 15, and he's really sweet. I was 24 in 1964. John, you must be happy with what Paul is accomplishing now. That everyone is doing well makes me happy. Since I knew Paul, I'm even happier that Ringo is succeeding and finding a fulfilling niche for himself. Everything will work out. What on earth? I'm concerned for him. I'm confident he'll be fine. Paul would give me a solo when he felt generous. Or perhaps he would give me a solo if he was feeling bad about having the majority of the A-sides or something. Paul is writing a pop song there. Did Rita actually have it? Are you aware? Yes, like a novelist, he makes them up. There are a lot of McCartney-influenced tunes playing on the radio right now. These are tales about dull folks working as secretaries, postmen, and whole writers. Since I know myself, I enjoy writing about myself, even though I have no interest in writing that. Whatever it is, I don't mind the postman or the secretary. George plays the guitar beautifully, in my opinion, but I don't think he's able to let go. But frankly, so is Eric. Perhaps he has changed. All of them are really hung up. We all are, in fact. That's the issue. This countryman, do you enjoy Mingo's record? It's a good record in my opinion. None of it would appeal to me. I think the LP is good, and hearing the song Beaucoup of Blues was a pleasant surprise. Good, I thought. I was relieved and less ashamed than I had been about his debut album. You find it difficult to ask me, though. Asking you what I think of is like that. It looks terrible when I say, I don't like this, and I don't like that, so ask me about other individuals. Simply said, I also dislike a lot of the Beatles albums. My own preferences differ from the cop-out game I occasionally played for financial gain, or other reasons, or just because I was naive. It is a completely different situation when the lawyers are involved in the divorce. Talk to my attorney. In the past year, Paul and I have spoken on the phone frequently. Indeed, you have undoubtedly been in contact with one another for a longer period of time than that. Indeed, during all of this, or did you ever stop communicating with one another? It wasn't that we weren't communicating. So much was happening. We had no opportunity. He was in Campbelltown too, gardening. At one point, he spent a lot of time up there. There was no way for anyone to contact him. The majority of the time, people decide to seek a divorce amicably. However, if your attorneys arrive and advise you to avoid speaking with the other party, unless a lawyer is present, at that point, the drift actually begins to occur. Communication stops when you are unable to communicate with one another, without the assistance of a lawyer. Divorces are actually made unpleasant by lawyers. It would be much better if there was a lovely ceremony, such as getting married for divorce. It wouldn't be so unpleasant to even divorce a business partner. However, since you're never permitted to express your own opinions, things always turn unpleasant. You must speak double Dutch. When you are forced to spend all of your time with a lawyer, you become irritated, and say and do things that you wouldn't normally do. Were you truly upset with Paul? No, I wasn't upset. I wasn't upset when he displayed his anger. I was just shit. Paul is a good public relations man. He's arguably the best in the world. He performs an excellent job. I wasn't upset. I believe he says he didn't intend for it to occur, but that's nonsense. We all heard that he didn't tell us what he was going to do. I'm doing what you and Yoko are doing. He told me over the phone that afternoon. Good, I replied. They were all staring at us like we were weird when we tried to live together and did stuff other than being big. Fantastic myths last year. That day he called me and said, I'm putting on our clothes and doing what you and York are doing. He said, and I'm leaving the group too. Good, I said. I was a little. Even though it was a year later, I felt a little weird because he was saying it this time. Well, I replied, good. That's all. As he had the greatest desire for the Beatles. Paul, George, and I will all understand this, I'm sure. That letter is similar to that tune. I just wrote it down, even though it was only a moment of rage. When you look at them again, Dylan mentioned that he discovered that the most of them are about him. How'd You Sleep on Walls and Bridges is a song I wrote. Steel and Glass is a name I can't recall, and I assumed it was about a select group of people. But then I realized no, it's me once more. Therefore, it's about me and not Paul. Really, I'm criticizing myself. I'm also responding to Paul's last CD, which most of you aren't familiar with, because he didn't include a lyrics sheet. Too many people go underground at the beginning. Your first error was that. You broke it in two when you took your lucky break. I'm not sure what it means if it doesn't mean what it says. The song concludes, we think we can't be wrong. I therefore composed a song in return. The biggest part, in my opinion, is some of the funniest lines on the album. Whatever it had done was yesterday. And it was actually one of Klein's jokes. You simply don't know the day since you've left. It's the funniest thing, in my opinion. I don't think about Paul like that every day of my life. When I heard his messages from his album, I immediately penned it in response. That hurts Paul a great deal. Even if he doesn't call, I'll follow the vibes. Well, I'll tell him about it. If he truly believes it to be that serious, I will even write to him. That item. However, I find it to be rather humorous. And while we were creating and listening to it, I was laughing. Ken, you're clearly friends. Although we don't quarrel much, I honestly didn't think we would be so foolish, yet we did. However, we did but particularly like they did. For example, they are seated and arguing. Then 20 years later, one of them is in a wheelchair. I didn't believe we were that foolish, therefore I never imagined we'd reach that point. However, we allowed individuals to stand in our way because we were too gullible. And that's what occurred. Ben Alt, the band that comprised the Beatles, has the Beatles. Have you and your partner been together since 1970? Not 4, please. Ringo George was recording in England while Paul and I were in Los Angeles. At one point, Paul was temporarily denied entry, and George had problems entering. But I wasn't going to leave. Thus, it's nearly impossible to get the 4 of us in a room right now. Furthermore, I'm not sure where Paul will be if George goes on tour. Will Ringo be present? Will Ringo still be here in August as he is now? He will return since he has to take care of his family. Thus, it's similar to ships that sail by at night. The relationships are friendly. Oh, it's so warm. Very cozy, sweetheart. Okay, are they meeting up? Indeed. Are they meeting up? Given the current state of affairs, we would have to be classified as dark horse. The 4 of us have never entered a room together, due to immigration, green cards, and other issues, so we never discuss it. Paul and George also struggle a little to enter and exit this country. Even though we've been able to get 3 of us in one place, the 4 of us haven't sat in a room together for 3 years. Paul, Ringo, and I were there. Actually, that was in the middle of Harry's record, perhaps in the summer. Would you be excited for a simple get-together? Yes. We all would, I believe. We communicate by letter and phone. I write to George if I haven't heard from him in a while, and he responds, "I'll be right over." Okay. I'll hold off till he arrives. We'll meet up if he's in New York and I am in New York. The West Coast is a long way away. I have no desire to take a flight. What are you doing? Okay, farewell. Saying no is a bad thing. They all despise one another. Crawdaddy. Cream claims they're getting together, so if you say yes, it's going to happen. Somehow Harry is bringing them together. Since we tend to get into that mood when we meet one other, there's always a chance that we could collaborate. However, I don't think we'll tour or do something similar. We've never talked about it. I saw us setting records. Why not? However, I'm not particularly interested in touring myself. You said before that the Beatles situation was resolved. Are there any more issues or has everything been resolved? There are many various aspects of it that people are attempting to resolve. And it's like a large family. The Beatles' body passed away. It's as if someone died and an estate was left. And we sons are going to try to make things right. They're doing nothing. I believe we're finally making progress on that.